Welcome to another episode of Stuck in the Middle Podcast. I am your host, Reflex. Appreciate y'all checking us on a weekly basis, man. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Today is the day you hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you get updates every time I drop a new video. If you're riding around, washing dishes, doing whatever you do, and you listen in audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Streetwear, all the good stuff, definitely appreciate you. Do a screenshot, send it on your social media, text your ex, let them know Stuck in Middle is out here doing it. You know what I mean? We are a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, creatives of African descent. You hear stories, ideas, and experiences on how we can break the mold. We got a special guest in the building. Definitely want to remind you to go check out the website, SitMPodcast.com first. If you want to write for us, send us an email. If you want to suggest a guest, send us an email. Just hit us up on social media, man. Listen, he goes by the name, the African King. But most people know him as Olumide Yerokun. He is a father, he's a dad, he's an entrepreneur, he's a social media specialist, creator of Pidgin English Company, co-owner of Homburg Company, a guy I have been admiring from afar for a long time now. Welcome to Stuck in the Middle Podcast, bro. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, listen, this has been a minute. A lot of people don't know you are responsible for my book, No Such Thing as Halfway Cover. I just wanted the public to say thank you, man, because a lot of people love the cover. So thank you for blessing the cover of my book.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I think people don't realize like we kind of linked up randomly, but you know, when you're doing the music, you rock the shirt, and then you reached out, and then we worked on the book cover, and I was just like, yeah. I mean, because like, in all honesty, I think you were the first to ever wear it in a music video, and I've just like watched you from afar, even from just that moment to seeing you do the book, and just seeing the progression. I get the WhatsApp messages, and I mean, I've really just like admired like the hustle. Like,
man, I think appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really more than hustle. It's just like, you know, you've been growing and getting better and better and better and just pushing everything that you're doing. It's just like, you know, this right here is like a great, 360 moment.
Nah, listen, it's about you today. I appreciate you giving me my flowers, but I wanted to ask you, how are you doing, man? You know, it's a pandemic, like you know, like we say, how has the pandemic been treating you? How are you? How you doing?
I'm hanging in. You know, I think with what we've gone through in the last year, like it's just been a few ups and downs of just like, all right, what's life really about? How can I, you know, focus in on what I'm really passionate about? I think for a lot of people, you see like, you know, the smoke and mirrors of some stuff is like gone, and it's just like, yeah, man, we were kind of just, you know, living paycheck to paycheck to go to jobs we really didn't like. And I'm really at a, you know, not, I wouldn't say a crossroads, but just at the moment of like, all right, what am I really passionate about? What do I really want to do? You know, what motivates me every day and gets me up out of my bed? And, you know, how can I like focus in on that and bet on myself?
No, listen, you're one creative that has always been big on putting African first in everything that you do, especially for somebody who was born in Georgia in the South. You know what I'm saying? That's where you grew up in the States. We're going to get into your breakout a little bit later, but where did that love for Africa in branding come from for you?
So for me, I mean, it's really my dad, my mom, my whole family. Like, you know, right. I think even being born in America, living in the South, you look for identity. And it's hard, like, you know, one of my favorite things to say is like, in America, like assimilation is required, acceptance is sold separately. So just like, you know, I'm Nigerian American, so Nigerian culture, like just being in that, finding myself in that, and just knowing like my dad is a big proponent of like, we can do anything. Like, even if you look at what's going on in the world now, at the end of the day, like for me, I just personally believe like Africans can do anything. We got the resources. We just need a little bit of structure. You look at stats and stuff, like they say like the African immigrant is the most progressive. And it just shows you like, it's not like we need crazy structure. But if we just had a little bit more structure, I think we would probably you could probably get 8 world powers just to pop up out of nowhere out of Africa. And I think just like my dad is very adamant, like, bro, don't ever in your life put no other ethnic group above Africans to say like, oh, they can do something better. Because we are humans. We all got the resources. I mean, if you look at history, like the resources were stolen, and it's not like they're gone. We're still providing resources for the world. So just growing up in America, I just saw, you see people like yourself, and you just knew, like, subconsciously, you were just like, man, we can do anything. So I've just always been adamant about it, just because I know, like, bro, there's over 3 million Africans in America. Like, we got the resources, the money, with the knowledge, the creativity. There's no reason for us not to just do it.
What kind of structure though? What kind of structure do we need in terms of structure? What do you mean?
So I think honestly, it's really like a little bit more connecting. So like, right, how do we get to the person who has the money, and how do you then put them the idea of like this is viable? So I think the ideas are always out there. It's just like, how are we connecting the money? How are you getting somebody to believe in that? And I think that's maybe where a disconnect is happening. And then also, like, I think we just personally need a little bit more reaching across. So, like Issa Rae said, reach across. So look at the person next to you or at a similar level as you, and how can y'all work together? And I think with a little bit more of that, like, it just puts us on a stage to say, like, all right, cool, they're doing something. I think also we have to take into, consideration, like, Africans are very like, look at your mate. And if your mate's doing something crazy good, your parents are sometimes like, why aren't you doing something crazy good? And that might be a detriment, but I think we're gradually overcoming that, to say like, all right, cool, like, yeah, such and such might be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, but I'm doing this creative thing, and the creative thing is popping off as well. Yeah. So I think, like, once we start just connecting the dots a little bit better, and like opening people's eyes to say like, oh, this person's here doing cool stuff, I can work with them. I think we'll see a lot more change in the coming years.
Create or build what you want to see. Elaborate on that statement.
Yeah, man, that's just my motto for my life. Like, create what you want to see. It just goes back to my upbringing. My dad, like, is a big proponent of like never give up. He's in his 60s, and he's written several books now, and he's working on another book. And I just embody that in the sense of like, all right, for my life, what did I want to see? What do I want to see? How do I take steps every day to get to that? And you got to look at your life and just realize like these things are attainable. So like, even into me starting Pidgin English, it really started out of just a desire to say like, yo, I'm African American, like Nigerian American, like, why isn't there a brand that represents my life? Like, the culture's strong. We got all these people here. Why am I going to the store to get another brand that, like, that doesn't fully like embody my experience? So like my goal was like, all right, let's create that brand. Let's try to build that from the ground up. And so like, I think for everybody, we're all on a journey of like creating what we want in this world. And there's the only thing stopping you is you. Like, I mean, it sounds cliche, but a lot of this stuff is mental now. So the barrier to entry is getting lower for certain things every day. So now it's just really like, are you ready to just get over those humps mentally and start, and be consistent?
Yeah. You speak so well of your dad, and I love it. Real quick, you are a dad yourself of how many kids?
I got 3 kids, man. So I'm full daddy daycare over here. They challenge me every day and help me grow, month by month. And it's just a real new experience, but it's also just like, in terms of like legacy and generation wise, you just realize like, this is a new chapter in terms of like Africans in America, and like I'm just trying to help them like realize some things and grow within that.
Yeah. Your wife from Nigeria as well. How long you been married?
Nah, so she's actually from America.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's my girlfriend, so you know.
Yeah. Okay. How you find yourself in Arkansas, man? I know you Arkansas now. That.
Yeah, man. So this is where like Africans move anywhere. So weirdly enough, like my parents came to Georgia for school, and they met in college, and then we moved out to Oklahoma for a little bit, and then Arkansas, and then we went back to Georgia. So I've just been, you know, in the South. I spent some time in Baltimore and Philly, but mainly just spent all my life in the South. I just, you know, Africans will move anywhere for a good opportunity. So that's kind of how I do.
That's facts. As a first generation, I wanted to ask you just as a quote unquote first generation African or African American, do you sometimes feel like you know, like stuck in middle, or how do you bridge the gap? Do you find any difficulties bridging that gap between the continent and the diaspora?
Yeah, so I think it is difficult, but I think like the main issue is people have to define who they are for themselves. And so I think like, we get a lot of this like, you know, diaspora wars of like how African, like, are you African enough? And so I think we have to like accept in a way like you are African, you know, wherever your parents are from. Like if I'm Nigerian and I was born in America, like ethnicity wise, like I'm Nigerian, right? Specifically Yoruba, right? And can't nobody take that away from you. So we just have to accept like what it means to be Nigerian, you know, Ghanaian, Cameroonian. The spectrum is expanding, in my opinion. So like I get it. Some people are like, oh, but you can't speak the language, or you don't do this and that. And it's like it's cool, but it's also like, man, you got to understand like now the ethnic group is expanding in what we do, how we operate, and how we connect back. But I think like is one of those things where it's like, all right, I still understand like the cultural references, like, you know, people I've still had to prostrate to elders. Like I'm still on some like, yo, only give people money with your right hand. You know, it's just cultural things that I get it. Like some people might see it as watering down, but then I just see it as like an evolution. And so like my whole goal is just to educate people through my experience of just like, you know, like I've gotten like, oh, you speak such good English, why? And it's just like, you know, those things you just got to educate people. You know, you got to show people like, oh, I know how to eat the food. Like I had an aunt who like didn't know. She was just like, are you gonna eat your you know, your eba, your fufu with your hand or with a fork? And it's so crazy because like I like even growing up in America, like I didn't know anybody ate fufu with a fork. Like I just didn't think that was that was the thing. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I even heard people doing that. And things like for some people that might be their norm, but for me that was crazy. And it's just like how much are you willing to learn? How much are you willing to just accept about your culture? And like how much you just got to be like accepting of yourself. Like I get it. Like America is tough. Assimilation is tough. And you're trying to like maneuver through this duality, but I think it's like you just have to don't let anybody define you is my personal opinion. And educate people where you can. Because you know there is ignorance out there, and just be prideful in the fact that you are who you are, and you know you do the best to be that and show up as that every day.
Yeah, I dig it, man. Let's dig into your creativity bag. You know what I mean? Like some people might remember you from, you know, the brand The African King, which later stopped. I was curious about why, you know, you had to can or put that aside, the African King brand, and what brought you to, you know, having to stop that, and also what brought you to the birth of what most people know you as now, the creator, the founder, the owner of Pidgin English Company.
All right, so yeah, so I started the African King, like I said, like just out of a desire to say, like, what's a clothing brand that represents me, it represents my experience as Nigerian American.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I started that in college, and so I had done a few shirts. Hadn't done anything too crazy or too big. This is really like to me like one of the earlier stages of the term streetwear. And so I think like just doing that and not getting the kind of traction I wanted, I realized like, all right, let me take a step back and reevaluate the brand. And so within that, I had to think of like, all right, does the African King have longevity as a brand name?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the body? Like, what are the reactions that people get
Yeah.
when they hear it? And it was just like, it was really like, even in the term, you got to think of like the African King. It takes a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it can be one dimensional. And like even when you try to shorten it, like the initials are TAK, so it was just like some of the things weren't clicking for me, and so I was just like, all right, maybe I gotta just take a step back because I'm still passionate about clothing and streetwear. Like, what's a better name? Like, what like better embodies what I'm trying to do? And so I just like stumbled upon Pidgin English, just as like Pidgin English to me is just like a mixture of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a it's a great way for us to communicate across lines. Once you dive deeper into the history behind even the term, like Pidgin English is a language of currency. So it's just like it's a deeper exchange for us, in my opinion. But it also connects us. So I've just kind of like tried to dive deeper into that angle of like what is Pidgin English beyond just the language,
Mm-hmm.
but what is it like culturally? What is it through experiences? How are we connecting? Through the triangle per se, because like even with the African King, like it's a play on words in my opinion, because
Yeah.
like African King, colonialism, all those undertones are in there, but I try to kind of like bring some of those things into Pidgin English, just because I think there's like a nautical sense to the brand, in my opinion, just from the travel from like Europe to America to Africa, and how those things kind of still connect today.
I dig it, man. I've heard that you actually still keep a notebook of ideas that you write down, and I'm curious how many of those actually materialize into the light of day, and just
Yeah.
walk us through your creative process, of setting up the business and like putting out these products that we consume.
All right, so yeah, man. So there was a point I didn't know how to do graphic design at all. Like I looked at Adobe Suite like it was a different language, like
Like it was Morse
foreign
code.
language. Yeah, basically. So like at that time, like this was like early Pidgin English days. I was just like, yo, how am I even gonna get anything designed if I don't know how to design it? And I was having all these ideas and ideas and ideas, and they're just sticking in my head. And I was just like, all right, cool. The best thing that I can do is write them down, because I think like as a creator, sometimes you feel stagnant because like you don't personally feel like you're moving forward. And I was just like, all right, I can't continue to have all these ideas and not write them down, because I knew like in the back of my head, one day I'm either gonna like team up with somebody or I'm gonna have to learn it myself.
Mm.
And so I wrote down probably like 2 notebooks worth of ideas. And even when I started pigeoning, it's not even like I went straight back to the notebook. I just like it, because it was a new brand, I kind of just started from scratch. And then like throughout the process, I'll reference the book just to think of like, just to see like, all right, what were you thinking back in that time? And
Mm.
then take bits and pieces and kind of like, bring them into new stuff. Even when I'm at work, like I spent half my day designing.
Mm.
So, I think people say like, your day job is your first investor in your side project. So, just given the opportunity to have like Adobe Creative Suite through work, I would just spend half my day designing, and I just had like things stored up, and so I just go back into kind of like the treasure chest to say like, all right, let's move some things around here, take some of these pieces and put it together to come up with new designs.
Who's behind the brand, man? I know it's not a one-man team. Who's behind Pidgin English Company?
It's low key. I hate to say it's just me because it's not just me, but like it's really me. And then like I utilize my friends and family to kind of help me get everything out. So like design wise, it's currently just me.
Yeah, I
But
guess
in the
better yet,
beginning,
you know, speak about collaboration, especially in this era where it's very important. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you having the resources, both being African and African American. Speak about, you know, the importance of collaboration in this era of creativity.
so yeah, so when I first started Pidgin English, I was in Philly, and I had a friend group of like 5 people, and like we 3 of us worked together. And then we had I had other friends at work that did creative stuff on the side too. So we would just like have lunch together and just talk about like, all right, what do we like to do creatively? Like never really talked about work. And it was just a real like, you know, it was just fun, like
Mm-hmm.
just fun to go to work. Like you do work, but just to hear everybody's creative
Yeah.
process, it just helped me solidify myself. Like, all right, this is what I need to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so my friend Manny, like he was a graphic designer at work, and so I was like, hey, this is my idea. You know, can you bring my ideas to life? And he was like, say no more. And he was Nigerian American as well, so we just clicked, you know, from the jump, and we just worked together and building like the base foundation. So like the shield with the 2 spears and the graphics in the middle, like he created that, and I give him credit for that all the time. And you know, we work on side projects together to this day. But it's really just like having a core of like 5, 7 people, and us just bouncing ideas off of each other. And out of that core, like we created Humbeg Co. And so like it's really just finding a group of creative people to work with, and like my cousin helps me out and just like planning and getting things in order. So we've had like monthly, weekly calls just to say like, hey, what do you have planned? What do you think about this? What can you get done? And it just gives me a better structure to say, all right, cool, like this is the type of run I need to go on for this summer, or this is the type of what you need to have prepared by the fall, to get things out, you know, before Christmas or whatever it may be. And we just kind of like bounce ideas off each other. Like I'm really strong in social media, so I help my friends with that. And is really like, if you can't talk every day, at least, you know, set up a call with your friends monthly to say like, hey, what do you got going on? How can I help? And it just kind of like motivates you to make sure like you show up for the meeting to say like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I need help on. And I think it just helps people's creative process to get things out, because I think we're you know, if you're on the internet a lot, you're like, dang man, this person dropped this, I'm behind, but it's really like going at your own pace and set consistency for yourself to make sure you get stuff out as you need to.
How's business doing?
Yeah, I mean, business is cool. Like, it's not like I'm out here just, you know, living the lavish life off of Pidgin English. But it is something where I'm just trying to build to be more consistent. So even I think it's really like consistency for myself, because I think for the market, people want stuff, but they want it more consistently. So I'm just trying to work on getting that out more. I got a lot planned out for the summer and the fall. So it's just, you know, providing people with quality photos, making sure the product is good, getting the shipping out on time. I know people think it's Amazon type shipping, but you know, you just gotta you gotta put it everywhere on your website, and even send out emails like, hey, this kind of one man show, so just give me a couple days and I'll get your shipment out there.
Yeah. What influence do you think Africans have on American streetwear, or global streetwear for that matter? You know, like what influence have you seen, or do you think Africans have on American streetwear?
So I think like low key, like my whole thing is like, if you don't have an African on your team, you're not gonna win. In the If we look at if we go off like how many Africans are in the world, it's a statistics thing, right? So if you don't have an African on your team, I don't think you're gonna win. If we're looking at streetwear specifically, I think Africans have a huge voice, we just don't know who all those individuals are. So I think people look at Virgil and say like, oh, he might be the voice. But to me personally, I don't think he specifically speaks to Africans. His so just he's more so to me like an African in it, and we give him credit because he's Ghanaian and he's done a really great job of selling us metaphors in my opinion. But I think there are a lot of good Africans in streetwear. I like to give a lot of credit to Emeka Obi. He worked with 10 Deep, and to me, he's kind of like a forefather of structuring streetwear for America. But I don't know how many people know that, but it's just like, even if you look at like Chimodu, like he was the photographer who photographed iconic photos of Biggie and Tupac. And rest in peace to him, and he recently just passed. But these are like people who were in it that some people know, some people don't know, but they kind of like they were the molders of what we see today. And so like there are a lot of people in it. It's just like you got to be in it to know them, and I they're making moves and making headway for kind of like a new generation of streetwear designers, specifically in the African space.
I also wanted to talk about, the history of African streetwear and how it started in 2007 with Allen and Fifth, because it's everywhere now. African streetwear is everywhere now. But, we would be doing a disservice if we did not highlight the history of it. And I feel like you're the perfect person for that. You know what I mean? Especially how we popping off with the thing right now.
Yeah, so I like to kind of consider myself a historian, as also being a practitioner. So if you look at like that time, like African streetwear was like low key would have been laughed at, right? Depending on where you live. And so I think if you look at what Allen and Fifth were doing at that time, it was somewhat groundbreaking. I think you even had a like one or two groups who wore their clothing in a music video, and like you had some pride. But I don't think it reached the country. It was kind of like a tri-state thing, mainly New York. And so at that time, like they were kind of pioneers. You had maybe 2 or 3 other brands that popped up after them, who also did things. I gotta give credit. The DMV had a brand as well. And so like, man, I think like the progression has just been also a product of just pride in being African. So at in the 90s, early 2000s, like, if you were African, you were giving people a nickname, right? Even for myself, like I went by Lou in elementary school and middle school, but it was by like college and now you're like, man, what's my real name? So you got to give people your real name. And so what we have now, I think, is just a pride in being African. I think also it's just like the barrier to entry is a lot lower, so it's a little bit easier for people to create brands. But also in effect, I think like people are trying to figure out, what do Africans in America actually want? Like, are you giving them like, African designs remixed, or are you giving them like American streetwear remix for Africans? And so like, like every day I'm finding a new brand. There are a lot of people out there. I can't say everybody's name, but I think like Mazizi's doing a great job. River is Wild is doing a great job. There are a couple brands in Cali. There's a brand, Little Africa, that's doing a great job. Mifflin is owned by an African. And so like there are a lot of brands just doing great work that I respect and really want to see them win overall, because I think like at the core, my new question is like, look at your closet. What brands are in your closet? Like, how many African brands do you have in your closet? And it's not like people are charging crazy prices. These are all affordable, attainable items, and t-shirts, hoodies, pants, jackets, socks, the whole nine. can be in your closet, I don't see any reason why not, in my opinion.
And you do a great job of writing about this, all of this in the One Tribe Mag, where you serve also as the marketing specialist. Great folks over there. Shout out to all of them over there. We've worked with them in the past. How did that link up come about? Because I know that's fairly new. Or not so very new. Yeah.
Yeah, but big shout out to Io. Io had a brand as well at one point, and his brand, I think, I gotta say this, like his brand, I think really created a spark for everybody to see like, yo, this African streetwear thing is really attainable. But I know it's really hard because like streetwear is hard just in general, but like you gotta like overly prove your brand to some people. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, big shout out to One Tribe Mag. We linked up because I think they just put out kind of like an all call of like, oh, we need writers, we need such and such, and I just reached out. So even before that, like I believed in like, African culture from a media standpoint, specifically kind of like a Complex or a Hype Beast, that type of thing, because like you saw like people like Joshua Kissy, like, African creatives come into prominence, and I was just like, where's the outlet for us to be kind of, either spotlighted or just talking about that. So that I really just started off as writing articles, but I just kept on presenting ideas for us to grow, and then got moved up to marketing and working on the social media, just because I have a social media background, and it's really just like being passionate about what's happening in the space, and doing the extra research to know, like, what's happening in the DMV, what's happening in New York, what might be happening in Atlanta, what might be happening in LA. I mean, there's a lot. I think people think there's this big gap, but it's just that, like, I think there's this middle space that a lot of us are thriving in, and we just got to highlight each other and make the connections to say, like, hey, African media from a like culture, fashion, tech, all that entrepreneurship level, there is viable. Even if you look at like, okay, Africa, like, it lets you know like this thing is viable. We just got to get some money behind it, and reach across to say, hey, we can work together to make this pop. So just seeing what's out there. IO put out an all call. I signed up, and you just show up when you're passionate about something.
I like it. What are you plans though? What are your goals for not only One Tribe Mag but Pidgin English company? Like, what are your goals for the next year, next 2 years, next 5 years? What do y'all got planned?
Okay. Well, I think for one, just to reach more people, build the business behind it, the brand, just let people know we're out there, because I think it can sometimes seem like, oh, what are they really trying to do? Is really just trying to be a media company, and present a solid product. I think African culture from kind of like this new creative space is really encouraging, somewhat of a wild west, but with a little bit of structure. We can have our own kind of like network, whether it's, I hate to say TV, but like, a streaming network where we're putting out content, videos, things of that nature. And I see that happening hopefully within the next 5 to 10 years. And then for Pidgin English, I mean, it's really just reaching more people, becoming a solidified brand. Like, I want to have my own store one day. The super long-term goal, you want to be a global brand, having physical brick and mortar stores. If you look at Daily Paper, they got a store in America, and they're a brand out of Amsterdam. So I think like, the African streetwear, everyday wear, case studies right there, like, is viable. There are enough Africans. It's just like, we just need the support, whether it be financial. I mean, everybody loves a little financial support, but it's also just like, all right, link me to somebody who can help us all elevate. And how do How do we continue to just link each other so we can all elevate?
Yeah. As we witness, the growth of African creatives gaining notoriety, with major brands and peers alike, what tips, as we round up, what tips do you have for Africans, not only in the continent, but here in the diaspora, for doing better business?
So I think that's a good question. For better business is understanding and studying the craft. So my best example is, like, if we look at like African music, Afro beats or whatever, I think people are getting lost in singles and how they present their singles. Right. So I run One Tribe Social, and we get a lot of DMs about singles. And my frustration is like, bro, your music is way more valuable than this DM that you've sent me. Respect yourself, respect your music, present it like it's gold, present it like it's a 5-course meal. Like, don't just say, oh, hey guys, what's up? I got a single. Like, that doesn't give me anything. That doesn't help me present it better to my audience, right? So if you send me a single and say like, yo, this single is the top new best single because I'm an artist who does X, Y, Z, and the song is about X, Y, that's something to write about. All right, cool. Here's artist X. He got a great song. The song is about this. It impacted him this way. Here's a blog post, right? But if you just send me a link, now I just click the link. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to expect. I got no expectations, but now you're expecting somebody else to write about your music, and they might get it completely wrong. So it's like, you got to take a little bit of ownership to say like, yo, this is what I'm about as an artist, right? Music or whatever type of creative, and this is what this piece is about. And every DM is not going to be a yes right away, because like we also get DMs for people doing photo shoots and stuff like that, and sometimes it just doesn't hit the mark. Like, I don't really get what's going on, and I'm just like, maybe that one wasn't it, right? It's all about progression, because like I'll be honest, like even for myself, like I started out, everybody starts out with somewhat you just kind of work on it and gradually figure out how to get better photos. Then your design gets a little bit better, your concepts get a little bit better. Maybe you get a new photographer, you get a little bit more dynamic. And so I think overall, like, people, the DMs is not it. Look for brands' emails, go to their websites, figure out who works at the brand, like, email people, talk to them, because at the end of the day, all this is human. We're human. So, come at me like a human. Don't just send me a DM like I'm your email inbox that you don't check. So if we can just get better at, building relationships, treating our art more than just a DM, and giving people, some consistency and some meat to the content, it helps people, better write about them as a creative, and present a better product overall.
Yeah, man. I feel like we can go on, and just getting all the juices, the gems from you, bro. But I feel like people need to go right now, check out One Tribe Mag, stuff that you've written on there, incredible articles. Pidgin English Company is the name of the brand. Plug everything else that you got going on, man. Well, how can people reach you? How can people get in contact with you? How can people just, spam you with all them DMs for their new singles and photo shoots and things?
Yeah, so me personally, I'm the African King on social, Pidgin English Co. For the brand, and One Tribe Mag for the marketing and the culture. On all social, it's the same. If you find me on Instagram, it'll lead you to Pidgin English Co. And if you find at the African King, it'll lead you to One Tribe as well. I got a website, theafricanking.com. The brand is pidginenglishco.com and onetribemag.com as well. And that's where I'm at. I'm online every day, all day, almost. So, reach out. If I don't get back to you that day, I'll get back to you within the week. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
Yeah, man, I dig it. Like I said, I've been, meaning to to link up with you for a minute. I'm glad we got to talk. A lot of dope stuff, man. Please, 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 people go follow, support the brand. Do be asking some crazy questions on Twitter too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, please let's link up, man. Offline. I want to, give your audience a special discount. Yeah, so if you go to pidginenglishco.com, we can do a discount code 20%. Stuck in the middle, or we'll figure it out, and we can
for sure. I dig it. Listen, if you're watching right now and you subscribe and you follow us and you follow Pidgin English Code, let us know in our DMs. Send us an email with screenshots so we get you 20% off a t-shirt, a hoodie, some shorts, anything for the summer. That's the criteria. You subscribe, you follow us, and you follow Pidgin English Code. Let us know. We get you 20% off your next order.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it that way. Listen, we have had a pleasure speaking with the African King, Olumide Yerokun, incredible dude, entrepreneur, social media specialist, creator of Pidgin English Co. And just all around dope guy, man. Appreciate you checking us out, man. Appreciate you kicking it with us today.
No, thank you, man, for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. If you're watching again, like I said on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button so you get updates every time I drop something new. AK's in the background creating this thing. He don't never come out to play, but it's all good. Shout out to Ma, shout out to Inez, shout out to Charles, shout out to Achiri, shout out to the whole team. Tutu, I see you. Listen, next week we will be back, or in 2 weeks we will be back. The Couch Talk is coming back. We got some new writers. We got some incredible things popping off on the website, so definitely go check that out. Couch Talk, we got some incredible topics booked, incredible guests booked. This thing's about to be popping off the summer. We outside. I ain't outside, even though I'm vaxxed. But it's Stuck in the Middle podcast. We're going to catch you on the next one. Peace.
Hey everybody, this is your girl Tutu, and make sure you check out our online store so you can get some SITM merch. Make sure you check us out. Make sure you hit up all our videos. We got some dope content on the way as well. Make sure you also subscribe, hit that bell notification, and check us out because we got more in store.